Hi guys, this is gsnhome.com and I'm here with a review of the ASUS ZenFone Max Pro M1. It's a 5.000 mAh battery phone. It's got a clean version of Android in the mix and it's got a dual back camera plus the processor of the ZenFone 5, believe it or not. So the phone is priced at around $250 worldwide, and let's see if there's room on the market for one more battery phone. It's available in Meteor Silver or Deep Sea Black, and it's a 6-inch phone that's pretty compact for a battery device. It's got a metal unibody case. It has here a plastic lid at the top, plastic lid at the bottom as well. Not my favorite approach, but still it has pretty solid grip, and it's also a bit on the long side, so one hand use may be a bit cramped, at least in my view. We're getting here a thickness of 8.45 millimeters and a weight of 180 grams. If you compare it to the ZenFone 5, it's obviously a bit beefier. It's about 0.5 millimeters beefier and 25 grams heavier, but still pretty compact for a battery phone, well built, but also prone to smudges at the front and the back side. And don't forget the lids, which are for connectivity, but they also cheapen the device. Now on the display front, it's a 6-incher. It's got an 18:9 aspect, IPS LCD panel and Full HD Plus resolution. Let's actually put it to the test, and I'm going to use MX Player this time. Here we go, our typical test video, start over. Let's check it out. So the colors are pretty vivid as expected from an IPS LCD. I know it's no Super AMOLED, but still we got a pretty decent brightness, not a bad contrast to be honest, and it works fine even in the full sunlight. We had no problems with it. So decent contrast, okay brightness, wide view angles, and some pretty nice colors. Now we did other tests for this screen, and let's see how those came out. Okay, we go here. This is what the pixels look like under the microscope. This is an RGB stripes pixel arrangement. We also did a brightness test and achieved a top level of 428 lux units, which is quite okay for a mid-range phone. It beats the Motorola Moto X4, iPhone 7 Plus, scores below the Samsung Galaxy A8 2018 and the Huawei P9 Lite 2017. Now, as far as the settings are concerned for the display, they're pretty straightforward. You got your brightness, night light, auto brightness, and some advanced stuff like smart screen on and blink light, and of course some screen color tweaks. This is it in a nutshell. The screen is pretty solid. Now let's move to other specs. So first things first, we got a Snapdragon 636 here, the one that was present on the ZenFone 5 as well. And also 3, 4 or 6 gigabytes of RAM. We have the version with 4 gigabytes of RAM, 64 gigabytes of storage, micro SD card slot, and frankly speaking, there was no lag to bother us here. We ran PUBG, yes we did. Riptide GP Renegade is here. There's a Badland Brawl here. There's the new FIFA game here, and we played a lot of games. This is Riptide, and we had no problem with none of them, so that's a pretty high compliment. There was also no overheating, and the benchmarks were quite solid. So let's see what's happening here. This is Riptide. Once again, our favorite benchmark game, has been for years now. And as I'm showing you the gameplay, I'm also going to mention some benchmarks. In Antutu 6, we were able to beat the Motorola Moto Z2 Play and also the Meizu Pro 6 Plus, which we tested about 2 months ago. At the same time, we scored below the Huawei Honor 8 and the ZenFone 5. In general, we're able to beat the Huawei P20 Lite and the Galaxy A6 2018 with ease. And let's see other tests, because we have quite a few of those. Now, before I mentioned Antutu 6, and rest assured we also have Antutu 7, which is here with a pretty impressive score, placing us above the HTC U11 Live and Nokia 6.1, but also below the Xiaomi Mi A2 and of course the ZenFone 5 again. In Geekbench 4, in multi-core, this is the score we achieved, above ZenFone 5 and Xiaomi Mi A2, below Huawei Honor 8 and the iPhone 7. Graphical benchmark was also done. I'm talking about Slingshot. These are the results we achieved, and this one beats the Motorola Moto X4 and Xperia X-A2, which is no small feat. Remember it beats Huawei P20 Lite and Galaxy A6 2018, and it does that without breaking a sweat. And by sweat, I'm of course talking about overheating. There's no trace of overheating here. It barely goes past 30 degrees in Riptide GP Renegade and GFX Bench, 30.2 degrees in GFX and 34.4 in Riptide. And we also have the thermal scan of the phone. This is the thermal map with the CAT-X61 FLIR sensor, and as you can see, the heat is distributed in a uniform fashion, so truly no overheating. And we've gotten the goods, and by goods I mean the battery. 5.000 mAh battery in the house. On paper or promised 35 days of 4G standbys, 35 days of 4G standby, 12 hours of gaming, 20 hours of YouTube, and also 2 hours and 42 minutes of charge. So the duration I just mentioned is the promise on paper of the charging time. You see it's pretty close to the actual one. Now let's get all of that out of the way and let's see how this phone fared in our typical video playback test and so forth. So let's check it out. So as usual, we start playing a video and we keep playing it to see if this is any good for Netflix and the works, and boy, is this device fine or what. Now what we have here is 16 hours and 1 minute of continuous video playback. It's the 8th placed phone from the hundreds of phones we've tested, and it's actually not bad one bit. Beats Samsung Galaxy Note 9, Huawei P20 Pro, Sony Xperia XA2 Ultra, scores below the Motorola Moto Z Play and the first ZenFone Max, which is still a rock star even today. Now when it came to the continuous usage, we got here PC mark. There's 14 hours and 26 minutes, which is crazy good continuous usage. 4th place all time, beats the CAT S61 and the AllView P9 Energy, scores below the AllView P8 Energy, and the first ZenFone Max, once again a rock star. When it comes to charging, I would say okay for a battery phone, 2 hours 55 minutes, which is, by the way, the equal of the iPhone 10. And after 1 hour you're at 46% charge. That's something to remember here. When it comes to the battery options, you go here and you got your battery saver here, and of course you also have auto brightness available and a few other things like battery optimization. Okay, this all checks out. It's a pretty solid battery and a pretty solid battery phone. On the speaker front, there's a singular speaker here at the bottom, which will not cover in landscape mode, as you can well see. And it's a 5-magnet speaker with NXP amplification, and Google Play Music is available here as the music player. Now, oddly enough, I went and looked for the equalizer and found none. Looked for it, searched for it, no trace of equalizer here. Would have been nice to have it, but that's life. So let's listen to some music now, see what it's all about. Okay, so you probably figured out that it's pretty loud, pretty punchy bass, some vibration of the case, no distortion, and quite okay high notes, low notes, bass, voice, everything checks out. We got FM radio installed on the device. We got a bunch of headphones here, which are pretty nice for a mid-range phone. They're comfy in the ear, they deliver a pretty decent volume, not the highest in the world, I would say mid-level, but still quite an okay experience. And yes, we still have the audio jack. It hasn't been sacrificed on any altar of reduced thickness or anything like that. Now let's see how the device did in our decibel meter test. So first we scored 86.8 decibels in the acoustic sample test. It beats the Huawei P9 Lite 2017 and the Xperia XA2, but the test that matters the most is the one in Riptide with 100.1 decibels, which beats the Samsung Galaxy A8 2018 and also beats the OnePlus 6 and the Huawei Honor 10. At the same time, it scores below the Nokia 6.1 and the ASUS ZenFone 5 for a pretty solid overall experience in the acoustic front. Now on the camera front, I remember the ZenFone 3 Max, which had a pretty nice camera, unexpectedly nice, and this one offers a dual camera. So we got a combo of 13 and 5 megapixel here, LED flash, that's at the back, f2.0, face detection autofocus, bokeh, and even 4K video capture. At the front, 8 megapixel shooter with its own LED flash for the selfies, and I would say that the interface is pretty minimalistic but also a bit lacking. So basically video and photo, no trace of panorama, and these are actually scenes, these aren't modes. So you don't have modes, you don't have panorama, and you barely have HDR, but you do have bokeh for both cameras. Keep that in mind. Let's see some samples. As you can see here, the fall, the autumn has come, but there are still some flowers in bloom. It all started not very impressive. As you can see here, the sky has a pretty weird hue, certainly not a realistic one. HDR kind of fixes it, but it also adds a sort of white-gray mass to it, which is a bit annoying. The clarity was quite okay here, but this doesn't go past a regular mid-range phone. The selfies are a bit undersaturated and even a bit cold in colors. They're also too white. I'm talking about the skin. My skin is way too white in these selfies. Okay, let's go back here. These are the selfies. They're a bit undersaturated. And then we go further. In general, the colors were okay, even though some of the vegetation and some of the reds got a bit deformed in the process of photo taking. Even some blurred shots sneaked in. We also took some bokehs, which are, I would say, decent, but not more than that. It won't break any records for sure. There are some nice close-ups in this gallery. And as you can see here, a problem with the dynamic range happens when there's a strong sun. I would say this phone is a typical low mid-ranger or mid-ranger in the camera behavior. To be honest, I was expecting a bit more. It's not pricey, but still, some device makers have spoiled us. This is the bokeh. There's a lot of blur happening in the background. You can also make it less, but I've seen better bokeh on the Huawei P20 Lite for sure. Poor details in the distance. As you can see here, a regular shot and HDR shot pulls out the lighter parts of the image. The HDR is a bit gray. And the best aspect of the phone is the face bokeh, to be honest. This is the best part, the face bokeh. Selfies are actually not bad when you start using that option, but otherwise, you can forget about them. Here are some close-ups with flowers. Pretty decent, actually, not bad. The zoom was unimpressive. And if you get enough sunlight, you can actually achieve these shots, which I have to say are some of the best taken with this phone. So overall, not very impressed, even for this price tag. I would put it on par with something like the Nokia 6.1 maybe, Galaxy A6 2018 or below it, or the Motorola Moto G6 Place. So certainly not in the top tier mid-rangers. In low light conditions, things get a bit worse. A lot of artifacts, a lot of deformed colors. The flash doesn't quite perform. And this actually feels like a more entry-level affair, like a Nokia 5. We got foggy stuff, we got purple here, huge halos, poor zoom, lots of noise, lots of halos. So in low light conditions, you're better off with something from Motorola or maybe something from Huawei, even though Huawei phones don't quite perform at night. This is basically at the level of a Nokia 5 or some other lower end phone. So skip nighttime capture, stick with the daytime, and maybe stick with bokeh selfies and close-ups in well-lit conditions. On the video front, when I heard we had 4K, I was happy, but in the end, there's a bit of a bug here. I don't know if it's only our unit or all of the units, but the camera constantly keeps refocusing. It sets up the exposure quite nicely. Microphone isn't quite bad, but the constant refocus was a bit of a bother. The colors were okay in my book. The zoom was not very impressive because there's a lot of grain to contend with, but the refocus sure is annoying and you never get rid of it. To be honest, the 4K video was actually more generous with less problems in that regard. So 4K video checks out, but still the refocus is annoying. There is also a bit of burnt grass in the sun, so some overexposure may happen. And let's see what other videos we have here. We even took a selfie video just for kicks to see how it behaved. This is it. And frankly speaking, it's a bit too dark. I know it's in a shadier area, but I've seen better from mid-range phones. Feels below the Motorola Moto G6 series. And the switching exposure doesn't do it any favors. Dynamic range for the background is surely not impressive. This is one of the last videos. Once again, colors are pretty okay. Not a bad exposure setup, but the constant refocus bug is surely annoying. If they fix that, we could actually have a decent capture at the level of a Nokia 6 or Huawei P9 Lite. And during the low light conditions, you can probably already tell things are certainly not impressive. Even though we're filming in Full HD, MP4, 20 megapixels and 30 frames per second, things are dark and blurry, refocusing, huge halos, and also shaky. By the way, not the best stabilization in the world here, either day or night. So this is the other video. It's very red. That's something new. I've seen purple, I've seen orange, I've seen blue, but this tints everything with red. But somehow less refocused than during the day. Anyways, video capture may require a software update and then we can talk. Okay, that's about it for the camera department. If you're going to do browsing, you're going to use Chrome, which is obvious because we're dealing here with a clean phone. Talking about clean software, it runs a pure Android Oreo. We're accessing gsrandom.com right now with some decent browser benchmarks and some swipe input, of course, and that's about it. On the connectivity front, we have a great advantage here. We have triple card slots. Two of the cards are for the SIMs, two of the card slots, one for the micro SD. This is a dual SIM phone with a dual microphone from ASUS with noise reduction. There's a micro USB port at the bottom, there's an audio jack, there's Wi-Fi BGN, Bluetooth 5.0, Wi-Fi Direct, GPS, GLONASS, NFC, and of course 4G LTE. Now we did some speed tests and I am under the impression that we're lacking support for Wi-Fi 5 GHz because we had some pretty modest speeds. On 4G LTE up to 63.3 megapsecond in download, 45.3 megapsecond in upload, and on Wi-Fi 45.7 megapsecond downloads, 24.9 megapsecond upload. So I've seen better than this, I've seen twice as good, so expected a bit more. Now this has been the connectivity. On the software front, you've seen this tale before. It's clean Android 8.1 Oreo and it's got, well, everything. There's the Google Fit here, there's the multitasking with a carousel, you can perform a split screen and use two apps at the same time with ease, something like maybe, let's say, photos, split screen with the web browser. Okay, other than that, pretty straightforward. Keep the screen pressed, you got your typical widgets here and the experience checks out. Let's see, drop down and you've got the notifications and quick settings. The settings are also straightforward and stock: battery, apps, connected devices, sound, storage, and security. And guess what? Aside from the fingerprint scanner at the back, which is quite fast, you have face recognition, which is also incredibly fast. I was actually shocked by it, by how fast it unlocked the device using my face. And so much so that I feel the need to reveal this to you. And here we go. Face recognition, continue, pin, yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Done. No glasses here, and check this out. I would say that the setup is reasonably fast, and now be prepared. That was instant, and for a phone that's cheap, that's a high achievement. On the pre-installed apps list, there's about 25 apps. There's no bloatware, only stock stuff. Of course, we also have Instagram here, there's Keep, there's Google, there's Maps, there's Message, there's Messenger, there's the Play Suite, and that's about it. So that's nice to see. Sheets, slides, sound recorder, and YouTube. Okay, this is the end of the review for the ASUS ZenFone Max Pro M1. It's a mouthful. I want to apologize if I already spelled or named the device wrong, because it has a very hard to remember name. This battery phone has the following pros and cons. On the pro side, obviously, it has a fantastic battery. It's got a great build, pretty nice audio and display. The temperature is well within limits. It's got a clean OS, triple card slot, bokeh for selfies is quite good. On the con side, well, those plastic lids aren't doing anyone any favors. The camera suffers from refocus for the video. The camera in general performed below my expectations. We have only a micro USB here. There are no stereo speakers. There's no waterproof certification. And apparently no 5 GHz Wi-Fi, I can tell. And another plus, I would say the face unlock is quite fast. Now, in the end, I'm going to draw this conclusion. This is something like a 9 out of 10 battery phone with a 6 out of 10 camera. That's the idea. 9 out of 10 for the battery phone, 6 out of 10 for the camera. It actually behaves nicely for a mid-range phone. Nice performance, nice gaming. You're going to do a lot of gaming thanks to the battery, a lot of music playback because the speaker is solid. The display is also rather nice, so basically the camera is the only drawback. Some people aren't buying phones for the camera, and this is for them, this is for the gamers, this is for the people who actually want 2 days of continuous usage from the phone and a pretty decent performance. Also rather future-proof and clean thanks to this clean OS. This has been the review of the ASUS ZenFone Max Pro M1. Hope I got it right. From gsnhome.com. Bye bye.